Millersville was the kind of town where people joked about aliens but never really believed in them. Farmers saw strange lights in the cornfields, teenagers told ghost stories by the water tower, and the old men swore on their bumper sticker collection that the government was hiding something. But on Halloween night, nobody thought about aliens. They thought about candy. The streets were alive with monsters. Little ghosts darted across lawns. A pair of pirates argued over who got the last Butterfinger. A vampire skateboarded down Main Street, his cape flapping like bat wings. Parents hovered at the end of sidewalks, chatting, laughing, and reminding their sugar-high kids not to trip over their costumes. Max, dressed as a werewolf with a plastic claw that kept falling off, led the charge through Maplewood Drive. Behind him trailed his younger sister Lila, a vampire whose glow-in-the-dark fangs gave her a permanent goofy lisp, plus Jonah the Wizard and Kayla the Witch. Together, they were an unstoppable trick-or-treating force. Next house, Max announced, his pumpkin bucket clanking with loot. "Slow down," Lila hissed. "You're going to miss the good ones. The lady with the full-size candy bars is 2 streets over." But Max wasn't listening. He'd spotted something strange. At the far end of the cul-de-sac, where there had always been an empty lot, a new house stood. Tall, angular, and glowing faintly green. Its windows pulsed like a heartbeat, and the roof curved in ways that didn't make sense. "Was that here yesterday?" Jonah asked, adjusting his crooked wizard hat. "Nope," Kayla said flatly. "And I live down the street. That wasn't here last week, either." Max grinned beneath his werewolf mask. "Guys, jackpot. New neighbors always give out the good stuff." The 4 of them hurried down the sidewalk, past yards strewn with fake cobwebs and skeletons. The new house loomed larger with every step. It had a porch, sort of. It looked more like a platform with glowing lines running along the edges. A single jack-o'-lantern sat in the middle, its face carved into a wide, jagged grin. The pumpkin's glow was too bright, too steady, as if it had a light bulb inside instead of a candle. The kids exchanged a look. "Well," Max said, climbing the steps. "Only one way to find out." He raised his clawed glove and knocked. The door slid open with a hiss. Standing in the doorway were 3 figures. Tall, pale, and faintly shimmering, as if made from moonlight. Their arms were too long, their eyes too big, their movements too smooth. They didn't have costumes. They didn't need them. For one heart-stopping moment, nobody spoke. The air hummed with a low, electric buzz. Then Lila stepped forward and said, in her best vampire voice, "Trick or treat." The others chimed in, holding out their buckets. The aliens stared, blinked, tilted their heads. Finally, one of them leaned toward the others and whispered, in a voice like static, "Why do the small earthlings demand tribute?" The tallest alien tilted its head, and its neck made a faint click, click, click sound that made Jonah's wizard hat slide off in fright. The kids, though, didn't flinch. They were used to adults being weird about candy, long speeches about saying thank you, jokes about no tricks allowed, sometimes even raisins. This was just a new level of commitment. We say trick or treat, you give us candy," Max explained, holding his werewolf bucket out farther, like maybe the aliens just had bad eyesight. The nearest alien bent down, peering into his bucket. Its face was smooth, too smooth, except for the huge black eyes that swallowed up the porch light. It leaned closer, buzzing faintly as if sniffing. "Colorful squares," it observed in a low, vibrating tone. "Earth offering?" "Candy," Lila corrected, with a sharp snap of her glow fangs. "It's sugar. Kids live off it for at least 1 night a year." The aliens turned to one another and hummed in eerie harmony, as though logging this in some cosmic notebook. Then, with a sudden movement, the one in the middle pressed its wrist. A small hatch slid open in the wall beside the door. From inside, it pulled a glowing green cube. With surprising gentleness, the alien dropped it into Max's bucket. Clunk. Max peered inside. The cube pulsed faintly, lighting up the Snickers and Milky Ways like stained glass. Thanks. But this isn't candy." The alien leaned closer. "Nutrient block. Sustains 1 adult organism for 2 cycles of moons." Jonah gasped. "Dude, you just got alien MRS." "I don't want an alien granola bar," Max muttered. He nudged the cube with his claw. "I'll trade for a Kit Kat, though." The aliens conferred again, their humming quick and sharp. The shortest one turned back and asked in a voice like static through broken speakers. "Trade accepted." "Kit Kat is which weapon?" Lila burst out laughing. "Weapon? It's chocolate." Another pause, another ripple of uneasy humming. And then, as if suddenly struck by revelation, the tallest alien reached out, plucked the glowing jack-o'-lantern from the porch, and held it high. This, the alien intoned, its voice echoing with unnatural resonance, is the sacred fruit. The glowing head of your leader. The kids froze. Kayla whispered, "Oh, this is gonna be good." The alien held the jack-o'-lantern aloft like it was the crown jewels. Its enormous eyes reflected the flickering light inside, making it look even more unearthly. The leader watches with a carved face. It boomed. "All earthlings honor the glowing heads. This explains your devotion ritual." "What devotion ritual?" Jonah whispered. The alien gestured broadly at the street, where dozens of kids in costumes marched from house to house, pumpkin buckets swinging. Procession of the small ones. Each bears a hollowed head. The kids followed its gaze. Sure enough, everywhere they looked, plastic pumpkins were bobbing in children's hands, glowing with battery-powered lights. Kayla slapped her forehead. "Oh no, they think the pumpkins are, like, sacred relics." "Sacred relics full of Snickers," Max muttered. The second alien stepped forward and lowered its smooth, too long face to Lila's. "You, small Earth child, what role do you play in this ceremony?" "I'm a vampire," Lila said proudly, baring her glow-in-the-dark fangs. The alien recoiled slightly. "Predator caste, understood." The shortest alien crouched in front of Jonah. Its voice was full of reverence. "And you, a wielder of staffs. Control over atmospheric elements?" Jonah, not about to waste this opportunity, straightened. "Yeah, totally. I can summon lightning, but only if you give me, like, 3 Milky Ways first." The aliens hummed in alarm and scribbled something into thin air. No pen, no paper, just glowing symbols that faded as quickly as they appeared. Meanwhile, Max leaned toward Kayla. "If they think I'm actually a werewolf, I'm gonna milk this." "Don't you dare," Kayla whispered. Too late. Max let out his best howl. "Awoo!" The aliens gasped in perfect unison and stumbled back. The one with the pumpkin clutched it tighter, hissing. "Transformation confirmed," it said. "Their kind shapeshift freely. We must appease them." Before any of the kids could correct the misunderstanding, the middle alien shoved its hand into the hatch again and withdrew a shiny, floating orb. It dropped it into Jonah's pillowcase. "What is this?" Jonah asked. "Gravity modulator," the alien intoned. "In exchange for mercy." Kayla peered inside the bag. "You just got alien tech for, like dressing up as Gandalf." Jonah grinned. "Best Halloween ever." The aliens stood rigid on their glowing porch, their huge eyes darting back and forth. The streets of Millersville were alive with witches, zombies, skeletons, and superheroes. To the aliens, it wasn't a parade of kids in costumes. It was a nightmare battalion of Earth's warrior castes. A group of little ninjas darted past, shouting and swinging foam swords. The shortest alien stiffened. "Assassins," it hissed. Across the street, a toddler in a dinosaur costume waddled down a driveway, roaring through his plastic mask. The tallest alien dropped to one knee, clutching the jack-o'-lantern tightly to its chest. "The ancient reptiles walk again," it whispered. Then came a small army of superheroes. Iron Man, Batman, Wonder Woman, and at least 6 different Spider-Men. The aliens let out a low, collective hum that made the porch boards vibrate. "Impossible," the middle one buzzed. "They possess so many champions." Max, still clutching his werewolf bucket, snorted. Yeah, Earth's got, like, the Avengers and the Justice League. You don't want to mess with us." "Max," Lila warned under her breath, "don't." But Max was grinning ear to ear. For once, his annoying older brother instincts were working in their favor. The aliens were buying every word. A little girl in a witch costume stopped at the bottom of the glowing porch and waved her wand. "Trick or treat," she sang. The aliens jolted back like she'd fired a weapon. One of them raised its long hand as though shielding itself. "Sorceress," it whispered in awe. Kayla smirked. "Finally, someone recognizes my people." The aliens conferred quickly, their hums overlapping in nervous static. Then the tallest one placed the jack-o'-lantern back on the porch railing with great ceremony and turned to the kids. "You," it said gravely, "are clearly commanders in this ritual of power. In exchange for guidance, we will supply technology." With that, it pressed its wrist again. The hatch opened, and a metallic object floated out, a sleek, glowing device the size of a lunchbox. It hovered gently into Kayla's candy pail, resting on top of her Tootsie Rolls. Her jaw dropped. "Is this a weapon?" The alien nodded solemnly. "Defense shield. Protects against assassins, reptiles, and champions." Jonah nearly choked laughing. "You just got a force field in a plastic pumpkin bucket." Kayla grinned wickedly. "Coolest Halloween ever." But before anyone could celebrate, a group of teenagers in zombie makeup stumbled up the street, groaning and dragging their feet. The aliens froze, their humming turning into a frantic whine. They consumed the living, one whispered. And with that, the aliens stepped off the porch. New plan, the tallest one declared. We must study, observe, join the procession. The aliens descended their glowing porch with stiff, insect-like steps. They tried to copy the casual bounce of the kids around them, but it came out more like broken marionettes lurching in sync. Still, in the swirl of Halloween chaos, nobody batted an eye. Parents nodded politely, kids gave them a glance and shrugged. After all, it was Halloween. If you weren't weird-looking, you weren't doing it right. See? Max whispered, nudging his sister. They totally fit in. They look like inflatable car dealership people, Lila muttered back. The aliens, however, were convinced. Every costume they saw was, to them, further proof that Earth was full of shapeshifters, demons, and apex predators. A Frankenstein lumbered past, reanimated flesh, one alien buzzed nervously. A princess with sparkly wings skipped by. Royalty cast, another observed, bowing stiffly. Then came a boy in a hot dog costume, ketchup streaked across his bun. The aliens gasped in unison. Earthling warrior encased in ritual meat armor, the tallest whispered. Max nearly doubled over laughing. Meanwhile, Jonah had his wizard staff raised proudly, strutting as if he really was leading the world's strangest parade. Don't worry, citizens, he announced, these, honored guests are under my protection. The aliens hummed reverently at that. The staff-bearer commands, one murmured. Kayla rolled her eyes, but even she couldn't help grinning. If your ego gets any bigger, Jonah, you're gonna need a wheelbarrow to carry it. The trick-or-treat route took them deeper into the neighborhood. Every house was decked out. Fake cobwebs glistened under street lamps, skeletons waved from porches, fog machines hissed across lawns. For the kids, it was familiar Halloween fun. For the aliens, it was straight-up terrifying. A mechanical witch popped up from a yard display and cackled. The aliens shrieked so loud, two parents dropped their cider cups. A motion sensor skeleton leapt from a bush with a recorded, boo. The shortest alien collapsed to its knees, humming prayers to the jack-o'-lantern god. Still, they followed. Still, they watched. And when the kids rang another doorbell and chanted, trick or treat, the aliens copied them, perfectly in sync, voices buzzing like a broken speaker system. The door opened to Mrs. Patterson, who had a bowl of fun-sized Snickers. She blinked at the three towering figures on her porch, then smiled brightly. Wonderful costumes, she said, tossing candy into their waiting hands. The aliens stared at the bars of chocolate as if she'd just handed them nuclear warheads. One turned to Max and whispered, the sugar tribute is endless. Your planet is dangerous. Max smirked, told you so. But just then, a scream rang out farther down the block. The aliens stiffened, the kids turned. A group of teenagers was running from something that wasn't part of any Halloween decoration. The scream cut through the night like shattered glass. At first, everyone laughed. Halloween always came with shrieks, after all. Haunted houses, jump scare decorations, kids hamming it up for attention. But then the sound came again, sharper, desperate. This time, nobody laughed. A group of teenagers came barreling around the corner, costumes torn, faces pale under the streetlights. One of them tripped, scrambled up, and shouted, something's in the woods. The kids froze. The aliens did too, their large eyes gleaming as they locked on the tree line at the end of the block. The night there seemed darker than it should have been, shadows shifting in unnatural ways. Probably just older kids pulling a prank, Lila whispered, though her voice shook. No, one of the aliens buzzed, its head swiveling side to side. The movements there not ritualistic. They are hunting. Max swallowed hard, trying to keep his bravado. Hunting what? The aliens didn't answer. Instead, they raised their long fingers, and for the first time, something about them looked less comical and more dangerous. Across the street, porch lights flickered. A jack-o'-lantern went out suddenly, smoke curling from its grin. Parents began calling their kids closer. The laughter and chatter that had filled Millersville streets moments ago fell into uneasy silence. From the woods came a low growl. Not a human growl, not a recording, something deep and guttural, vibrating through the ground like a warning. Kayla clutched her candy bucket tight. That's not fake. Jonah, gripping his staff, tried to joke. Okay, so, maybe it's a big dog? As if in answer, a massive shape shifted in the shadows. Too tall, too wide. The porch lights down the street caught a glimpse of something slick and gleaming, like skin stretched over muscle, like eyes glowing faintly in the dark. The aliens stiffened. Their humming rose in a shrill, electric pitch. "This is not of us," the tallest whispered. "Another visitor." The growl came again, closer now. And for the first time all night, the kids weren't sure if the aliens were the scariest thing on the block. For one breathless moment, the kids and aliens stared at the shadow looming in the treeline. The air buzzed with fear, and somewhere down the block, a porch light fizzled out with a sharp pop. Then Max did the bravest and dumbest thing possible. He lifted his werewolf claw and said, "Okay, so, maybe we fight it?" "Fight it?" Lila hissed, grabbing his sleeve. "You're not a real werewolf, Max." The aliens hummed in sharp disagreement. "Correction," the tallest one buzzed. "Transformation confirmed earlier. Werewolf cub must lead hunt." Max's face went pale under his mask. "I was kidding." The creature in the woods let out another growl, deeper this time, shaking fallen leaves loose from branches. The sound made everyone flinch, except Jonah. He straightened, raised his wizard staff, and cleared his throat. As commander of the staff-bearer caste, he declared in his best dramatic voice, "I accept this challenge." Kayla groaned. "We're doomed." The aliens, however, practically vibrated with excitement. The shortest one thrust a glowing object into Jonah's free hand. "Weapon upgrade. May your spells strike true." Jonah looked down to find what looked like a flashlight, except it was humming faintly, light swirling in colors he'd never seen before. His jaw dropped. Sweet. Kayla didn't want to admit it, but a thrill ran through her. "Okay, maybe we can fight it." The aliens quickly distributed more gifts. A shimmering shield plate that zipped onto Kayla's witch hat, making it glow like a beacon. A humming wristband strapped onto Max's arm, vibrating with energy. And a small silver disc handed solemnly to Lila. "What does this one do?" she asked. "Vampire deterrent," the alien said gravely. Lila blinked. "I am the vampire." "Then self-preservation device," the alien corrected. Jonah snorted. The growl came again, closer now, followed by the snap of twigs. The shadows in the tree line seemed to pulse as something massive stepped forward, its outline hulking and wrong. The tallest alien raised its long arms and faced the woods. "Together, then, Earthlings and outsiders, defend the sacred gourds," Kayla whispered. "Are we seriously about to fight a monster to protect pumpkins?" "Yup," Max said, his werewolf claw trembling as he tried to look tough. "Halloween's weird like that." And then the creature stepped into the light. The creature stepped into the glow of a porch light, and every jack-o'-lantern on the street seemed to flicker at once. It was huge, easily 8 feet tall, its back hunched and slick like wet leather. Its arms were too long, claws curling as they scraped the asphalt. 2 eyes glowed yellow, not warm like candlelight, but cold and hungry, like coals pulled from a dead fire. Kids screamed and scattered. Parents yanked their children off lawns and hurried them inside. But Max, Lila, Jonah, Kayla, and their 3 alien neighbors stood their ground. The shortest alien hissed, "Not one of our kind. Native predator." "Native?" Kayla squeaked. "What native looks like that?" The monster let out a guttural roar and slammed its claws into the ground, cracking the pavement. Street lamps flickered again, and the air smelled faintly of burning leaves. Jonah gripped his glowing alien flashlight staff and shouted, "By the power of, Skittles, or whatever, back off." He swung the device, and a beam of spiraling light shot out, striking the ground in front of the monster. The earth hissed and smoked where it hit. The creature recoiled, but only for a second. Max raised his buzzing wristband, which flared to life with a sudden crackling shield of blue energy. "Okay," he said, gulping, "that was actually kinda awesome." The monster lunged. The aliens moved unnaturally fast, spreading their long limbs wide and humming at a pitch that made the creature hesitate. One of them hurled a green cube, like the one they'd given Max earlier. It burst into a glowing net of light that tangled around the beast's legs. It roared, thrashing, snapping the net but slowing just enough for Kayla to flick her wand experimentally. The shield plate on her witch hat pulsed, and suddenly a barrier shimmered up in front of her. The monster slammed into it, bounced off, and stumbled backward. "Oh my gosh," she gasped. "I just Wonder Womaned it." Lila, meanwhile, looked down at the silver disc the aliens had handed her. "Okay, what do I do with a vampire deterrent when I'm the vampire?" "Throw it," Max shouted. She did. The disc spun through the air, beeped, and then blasted out a shockwave of pure sound. The creature howled, clutching its head, stumbling into a mailbox that crumpled like paper. Jonah's eyes lit up. Guys, we're winning. The creature snarled and lashed out, swiping across the street and smashing a pumpkin stand to bits. Shards of glowing orange pulp scattered everywhere. The tallest alien shrieked in horror, the sacred gourds. With sudden ferocity, it leapt forward, arms glowing, and slammed both hands against the monster's chest. Light rippled outward, shaking the air. The creature roared again, stumbling backward into the shadows. Then, with one final hiss, it turned and fled, crashing through the tree line and vanishing into the woods. Silence fell. The kids stood panting, buckets still in hand, costumes askew, candy rattling from the vibrations. Jonah gasped, lowering his glowing staff. We actually did it, the aliens hummed in low unison, like a solemn chord. Finally, the tallest one spoke. Victory. Earthlings are formidable allies. It bowed stiffly to the kids. The sacred night is respected. Kayla bent down and picked up a smashed pumpkin. Sacred night, huh? Around here, we just call it Halloween. The aliens hummed again, filing the word away as though it were the most powerful spell they had ever heard. Halloween. The street was a mess. Pumpkin guts smeared the pavement. A mailbox lay in twisted ruins. Candy was scattered everywhere, tiny Snickers glinting under the street lamps like war medals. And right in the middle of it all stood 4 exhausted kids and 3 very solemn aliens. Max leaned on his werewolf claw, panting. Well, that wasn't exactly the kind of trick or treating I planned. Lila popped one of her glow-in-the-dark fangs back in. Yeah, but admit it. This is way cooler than last year, when you just fell in that guy's koi pond. Jonah tapped the alien staff against his shoulder, grinning like he'd just been knighted. We literally fought a monster and won. I officially demand to be called Supreme Staff-Bearer of Earth. Kayla rolled her eyes, but she was still glowing. Both literally and figuratively. No way. I Wonder Woman'd that thing into a wall. That's going on my resume. Wonder Woman isn't a word, Max said. Kayla smirked. It is now. The aliens, meanwhile, had gathered the remains of the smashed pumpkins. They cradled the orange shards reverently, humming a low, mournful tune. The tallest one finally spoke. The sacred gourds are wounded, it intoned. But the ritual continues. Your people honor them still. The kids exchanged a look. You mean, Jonah hesitated. Jack-o'-lanterns? The alien nodded gravely. Yes, the glowing heads of your leaders. Lila snorted. If pumpkins are our leaders, that explains a lot. Parents slowly began trickling back outside, murmuring about the big dog, or crazy Halloween prank, that had spooked the neighborhood. No one seemed to notice the aliens. Chalk it up to Millersville parents being desensitized to costumes after one too many Comic-Cons. The kids huddled together with their new friends at the edge of the street. So what now? Max asked. The aliens straightened, their forms shimmering faintly as if preparing to leave. We have observed enough, the tallest one said. Your planet is ungovernable, too dangerous, too strange, but also festive. The shortest one buzzed happily. Sugar currency, sacred gourds, warrior castes. We will record it all. Jonah raised his candy bucket in salute. Happy Halloween, space dudes. The aliens mimicked him, raising their glowing hands. Happy Halloween. Then, with a low hum, they began to fade, their outlines dissolving into sparks of green light. Within moments, the strange house at the end of the cul-de-sac pulsed once, twice, and vanished into the night sky like it had never been there at all. Silence returned to Maplewood Drive. The kids stood in the middle of the wreckage, candy buckets still swinging at their sides. Well, Lila said finally, we still have 2 more streets to hit. The others blinked at her. What? She said, baring her plastic fangs. I fought a monster, I'm not missing out on peanut butter cups. And with that, they marched off into the night, ready to finish the strangest, best Halloween ever. Thanks for trick-or-treating with us tonight. If you had fun, drop a like, hit subscribe, and ring that bell, or else the aliens might come for your pumpkin stash next.